Jake.
And I'm Christine.
And last year we looked at the trailer for the amazingly well-made horror comedy classic Creepshow, a film that was directed by George A. Romero, the late great king of zombies, and written by an original script by Stephen King. These two amazing legends in their own rights in film and literature came together and made what is pretty much a perfect blending of multiple genres and horror styles. It was a film that was pretty much a live-action comic book, and with that kind of success, of course, you think people would want a sequel, and we actually did get a sequel. 5 years later, in 1987, Creepshow 2. Except this time, it wasn't a 2-hour film made up of 5 stories. It was a 90-minute film made up of 3. And George A. Romero was not returning as director. Instead, he was the writer. And Stephen King wasn't writing any part of the script, although some of his short stories were used as inspiration. And he has a notable cameo in the film. Instead, the directing duties went to Michael Gornick, who had been the cinematographer on the first Creepshow. While it's not as great as the first Creepshow, Creepshow 2 has a lot of enjoyment in its own way.
Maybe you don't get out much.
Oh, this is crazy.
Come on, it's not so bad once you're in.
Or maybe you just have other things on your mind. Don't take your time, because the scares come twice as quickly.
What? You?
Creepshow 2.
So, how does that one look to you?
Interesting.
It's a good way to put it. I saw this trailer when I was in high school, like most of the movies I love. And Creepshow was 100%. Creepshow 2 is about 70 or 80%. Know what I mean?
Yeah. It looks a little cliche storylines.
Your mind. If you like movies that will keep you stuck to your chair, Stephen King and George Romero have conjured up an all-new Creepshow just for you. Creepshow 2.
And also, it's just not the same with it only being 3 stories. It's like they just couldn't come up with enough to make it the same as the first. But the stories they get are enjoyable. Like, they're not as grand or as iconic, but they got some good plots to them. You notice the old wooden Indian statue. That's a really fun story about a couple of punks rob and murder an old couple.
I mean, what is it?
I'm gonna swing for it right now.
Yeah.
So don't just sit there. One more step and blam!
The old wooden Indian chief mascot they have comes to life and avenges its owners. And probably the most grisly story of the film, the raft. As you saw a bunch of people out on the lake, and there's this. What did that look like to you?
So I first thought it was like an octopus kind of thing with the tentacles, but then when it became like the wave, it looked huge.
I beat you.
It's kind of a oil slick monster. According to what I've read, it was modeled after The Blob from 1958. And it kind of looks like that, but it's kind of its own thing as well.
It's like alligator-ish. So it's cool.
Yeah, 4 kids are out on a raft, and it's really cold, but they still want to go out, have some weed in the middle of the lake. And then this oil slick monster comes in, and if any of them touch it, it wraps around them, burns their skin off, and pulls them in.
Oh.
Swim if you have to.
Not into that lake. Not a good way to die.
The raft features a lot of funny moments from these idiot kids. Like, one of the girls starts screaming, and her big, overly macho boyfriend grabs her and yells, "Stop it, or I'm gonna smoke ya! I mean it!" Just, wow.
You're going to the moon!
I will say, though, the raft does feature a very weird moment where there's only 2 kids left, and one of them is asleep, the girl, and even though they're stuck on a raft in the middle of a lake with a monster that could eat them at any
Why the
second,
hell is she asleep?
the boy, for some reason, starts kissing and groping her, and just like, why? And what's really weird is the music for this scene kind of makes it seem like it's supposed to be a touching moment, and
It literally is a touching moment.
yeah, just not the type they're going for.
Yeah, kind of makes me tear up myself.
And lastly, we get the third story known as The Hitchhiker, about a rich woman who, after spending time with a gigolo, is trying to get home before her husband finds her. And while driving, she accidentally runs over a hitchhiker, and seeing no one around, she decides just to floor it.
But few like movies that will keep you stuck.
But after driving some distance, she sees that same hitchhiker carrying the same sign, and it becomes a matter of him appearing every time she thinks she's lost him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, can't escape her comeuppance.
So don't just sit there. Run.
I got you!
Sound like a film you might see?
Yes.
Cool. And next week we will be wrapping up October with a look at the trailer for Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.